Let's bring in the Tuesday trio of MPs. They're here perhaps for the last time before the House of Commons adjourns for the summer. Mississauga's Stella Ambler is in the Conservative corner. Richmond, BC's Ginny Sims is representing the Orange Wave, and Labrador Liberal Yvonne Jones rounds out the group. Welcome to you all. Sort of dressed in your party colors, except Ginny here. Let's talk about the Privacy Commissioner. He's turning into a pretty good friend of, well, especially the NDP, because he's flagging these issues and saying, you know, we got to split the cyberbullying bill, let the cyberbullying force go forward, but protecting privacy issues and having a closer look at that. You pretty happy with what you're hearing at these committees?
Well, we've had concerns all along that absolutely cyberbullying needs to be treated like a crime. We need to modernize our legislation to match, the reality of today. And we've had some horrendous cases of cyberbullying, and the outcomes have been really tragic. And we're saying the same: separate that part from the surveillance and all kind of intrusive behaviors that are in the rest of the bill. And then let's debate each of them separately. The first one, I think you'd get unanimous consent and it would be through the House in no time. And the second part, let us debate it on its merits. Let's listen to experts. And we all want safety and security. There isn't one of us that doesn't want that. But we also know that Canadians really value their privacy. I'm still a person who finds it hard to go through those magic screens where they say you can put up your arms, and I keep saying, you're going to have all that data. Not that I have anything to hide, but I still think there's some privacy issues,
Where are you on this, Yvonne?
Well, obviously, cyberbullying and online surveillance are two very different issues, right. And we advocated for legislation around cyberbullying. We're prepared to support a bill that speaks to that. However, we really feel that government went outside the realm of what Canadians have been asking for on cyberbullying. And by bringing in this whole aspect of online surveillance, it's a little underhanded. And we've been saying that from the beginning. We support what the Privacy Commissioner is saying today, and we really feel that government should listen.
He's
should
your guy.
separate the bill.
Why don't you listen to what he says?
Well, one of the things he said at committee today is that the bill is largely uncontroversial. And so I'm really pleased that he pointed out some of his concerns. And I think that, frankly, the safeguards are in the bill, and that the government will make sure that once it's in effect, we take a look at it. But in terms of splitting the bill, we think the whole bill needs to be passed. And rather than cherry picking the parts that you like, if you do that, then the bill will not accomplish what it's meant to, which is to protect our children from online predators. And what this bill does is it gives law enforcement the tools that they need to do that. And the concerns are really essentially unfounded, because law enforcement officials will still have to obtain judicial authorization to compel evidence. That's very important. So in other words, all of those safeguards are still in place. This isn't, all the fear-mongering that's going on. It's not.
But your own guy is raising
the oversight
this.
is still there.
What he also said, and I love the fact
what he also said is that if the standard is reasonable and probable grounds, that he's okay with that.
You know what?
Said that too.
Here we have Stella dancing on the head of a pin. First of all, in one breath saying the Privacy Commissioner has made some great points, and of course those will all be addressed, but after we pass the bill. That's not how we do legislation. The job of legislators is to make sure we protect Canadians, at the same time we respect their privacy. And you know what? Going out and getting a warrant isn't that difficult.
Last word to you on this, or you're pretty much in agreement with Ginny?
It's quite obvious that the Conservatives are being very stubborn around this legislation. They have not listened to the families who have come forward and put their interests first. They have used this as an opportunity to be able to incorporate pieces into this legislation that they know otherwise would be very difficult to get through the House of Commons. And that is wrong.
It is a wrong approach.
Use it as an opportunity to listen to victims and the families of the victims and take action now, which is what they're asking.
Interesting development today in the House.
Others are not.
Okay, interesting development in the House today. Your party, the NDP, is pushing for income splitting to be knocked down. Don't go forward income splitting. It benefits the rich, doesn't do enough. Jason Kenney stood up today and said, we don't care what's going forward. Income splitting is going ahead, as already put forward. You're going to lose. Why are you bringing this forward now? I mean, why don't you do it next spring when the budget comes down and they either say yay or nay to income splitting?
This is a very important issue for Canadians. What we're seeing is a growing income inequality between the rich and poor, and that gap is growing. And here we have a government, by the way, their own and highly respected finance minister, and I know that the Conservatives have done many tributes to him. He himself said this was nonsense, right? And it's going to benefit very few people. You're going to have about $5 billion being spent to help about 14%. And anybody who makes under $44,000, and plus people who are single, plus people separated or divorced, are not going to benefit. We have very high, we have very high child poverty rate. We have growing number of seniors living in poverty. Time to address the real issues.
Speaking of seniors, income splitting will not deal with the significant problems that are being faced by the middle-class Canadians today. We support, Liberals support a tax relief program, but we support a program that is going to reach out to 85–90% of the population in Canada that are in that middle income margin, low income margins that need that kind of relief, not to high income earners. And that's where Mr. Kenney and the Conservatives have focused their program.
Are you looking at your watch?
His comments today certainly speaks to the arrogance that they're displaying towards middle income Canadians and not doing anything to bridge this gap between the rich and the poor.
But Jim Flaherty, one of the last things he said was, I've seen a report, this is not a good thing that's fair to all Canadians.
He wasn't the only one to say that.
First of all, we have no idea what it would look like because it's not even on the table yet. It won't be on the table until we balance the budget. That's what we've said. We're very close to balancing the budget, and then we'll continue to provide tax.
Jason Kenney says it's going ahead.
That's not true. In fact, middle income net worth has gone up, according to a New York Times study. Even our own parliamentary budget officer released a report just a couple of weeks ago saying that Canadians pay $30 billion less in tax than they did 10 years ago. You know, we've implemented income splitting for seniors. What I would like to know is would the NDP and the Liberals, would they take that away from seniors, all those seniors who have benefited $380,000 from income splitting? Do you think it's such a bad idea that
what you're doing is comparing apples and oranges?
We're not going to get to our final topic, which you probably want to get to.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, here we go. We have BBC World Service has done a survey that looks at positive perceptions of countries around the world. Guess what? Germany #1, Canada #2. I guess the question I'll ask you, Yvonne, is that, and then we got Iran. No one likes Iran and Pakistan and all this sort of stuff. But I don't know. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yvonne, quickly to you. If Stephen Harper's foreign affairs policy is so evil and ineffective, why do Canada or the world look at us and say, hey, that's a pretty darn good place? I got a high impression of it.
Canada's image didn't just get established in the last 4 or 5 months or the last 5 years.
This goes up a bit, quite a bit.
Canada's image in the international community has been a traditional establishment of Canadians being peacekeepers around the world, being there to provide foreign aid to many countries when they need it, reaching out to international countries and people at all times. And that has been even back to the days of supporting Europe in the First World War. I mean,
what are they using it for? Are we using it critically in order to build peace and to build consensus, or are we being isolated by others?
Okay, quick last word.
You know
this
what?
Is it.
I was in my riding for D-Day celebrations on commemorations on Friday, and we celebrated those men and women who've served our country. We have so much to be proud of here in Canada. No wonder we came in a close second. And frankly, I mean, Stephen Harper has been our Prime Minister for 9 years. I think we have a lot to be proud of. Okay. And frankly, you should give him some credit for that.
Have a great summer, you three. If I don't see you next week.
Image around the world is not just defined by politics.
Thank you all. Hopefully see you next week. If not, I've got to move along.